Okay, so there's a pile of clothes left over after I sewed my first pair of pants on the last video. And what I'm doing here is I'm selecting pants that match in color, roughly, for... I'm going to cut them apart and make a second pair of pants out of them, which, like, dude, they were already pants, and they were a whole bunch of pants. Why do you want to cut apart a whole bunch of pants? Just so you can make one pair of pants out of them? And the answer is my relatives sorted those out, like, over many, many years. I got all the clothes that everybody else didn't want. None of these fit me. And I want to have a pair of pants that fits me. And this is during the Corona lockdown. So I can't just go out and buy any because all the stores are closed. There you go, that's all the pairs of pants I selected. And also, it's a bunch of fabric that I don't have to pay for. Like, I have a whole bunch of fabric, I can't wear it, but it's free for me. Because, like, everybody else just wanted to throw them away, and I was like, no, I can, like, make a creative project out of that, please. So I want to use these to teach myself sewing. Like, I'm gonna cut them apart, and I'm gonna make another pair of patchwork jeans out of it. And, yeah, like, learn how to sew jeans in the process. And what I want to do here is that I have a white pair of jeans in there. You can see that in the time lapse popping up every now and again. And I want to cut the white pair into strips of cloth that I'm gonna sew in between the blue strips of the blue. Yeah, I'm gonna sew them in between the blue strips to create a pattern, like a stripe pattern. And at this point in the process, I don't know which pattern it's gonna be. I'm gonna make a sketch of that later on and figure it out. I just know that there's gonna be long blue strips and tiny white strips, and it's gonna take a whole lot of time to sew, but I gained experience from making the first pair of pants in the last video. So I'm not confident, but I want to try it. Like, I want to try making something more elaborate. I want to try making something that has an intentional design to it. And that's why I'm cutting up all those tiny strips and hoping that it'll work out later on when I sew it all together. And it does. It turns out way better than the last pair. And there you go, that's the sketch that I'll be using. I'm going to try and duplicate the pattern that you see on that sketch as closely as I possibly can in the final result. And I do manage to get kind of close, I guess. The sizing of the strips ends up being off in the end, but it doesn't really matter because it looks cool. I mean, it looks cool by my standard. I don't know. Just coolness is in the eye of the beholder. But yeah, anyway, that's me sorting out the white strips into different sizes, so that I can use them to recreate the pattern that I drew as closely as possible. And I'm actually sewing the strips in such a way that the bottom end of the pants, it's going to be flared, and I'm sewing extra... How do I explain this? I'm making the bottom end of these things that I'm sewing there, I'm making it wider than the top end. So it'll end up being flared just because I made the patchwork that shape. And then I just... Yeah. How I work is that I sew a lot of tiny strips into a really long strip, and then I sew the long strips together, and I create from those long strips the front and the back of each pants leg. And the shape of those pants legs, it's determined by the shape, the width, the length of those longer strips. And yeah, so I'm making the bottom end wider than the top. So in the end, the legs will be flared because I love flared pants. That's just a personal preference of mine. And I usually don't manage to find those in stores. So I thought, I'm making a pair of pants from scratch here so I can sew anything I want. So I'm making them flared. Making them flared because I really want a flared pair of pants. And you can probably see that the time lapse is going on really long. Like, I'm taking... This takes a lot of sewing time. And it does actually. It took me, like, several days of, like, 5 or 6 hours of sewing. I had a bunch of free time, so I did that. And, yeah, the reason that this project took a really long time was because of all those strips. Like, I needed to sew all those strips together, and then I put zigzag stitches across the inside seams so that the fabric wouldn't fall apart later on. I put a third seam on there as well to make it fall differently. Like a third seam on each seam that I made to sew the patchwork together. And it's like, it's a lot of strips and it's a lot of seams, and that takes a really long time. But I'm really happy that I did it. Because I have that pair of pants in my closet now, and I wear it, and it's my favorite pair of pants. So, I got lucky there, yes. But it was worth the effort I put into it. Personally. I think so. And, yeah. You can see me do stuff with the scissors there, and frankly, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I'm trying to make something more uniform there. Because it's like, it's a bunch of patchwork strips. They don't fit perfectly together. And like, just, yeah. It's still a lot of trial and error. It's less trial and error than with the first pair of pants, but it's an experiment. I'm still not using a pattern or any instructions on how to sew pants, by the way. Like, this is still all just my imagination, which I realize is ambitious to say the least. Because I have no prior experience with sewing. What you can see there, by the way, that's all the different colors of the threads that I'm going to be using. Like, the threads that I have there, I didn't go out and buy them. I had those in my basement because my mother wanted to start sewing, and she never did, but she bought a bunch of thread, so I'm just using up that thread that we already had and that no one was using. And it's a bunch of multicolor thread, but most of the seams of these pants, they're on the inside. You can't see it from the outside, so it doesn't show on the outside. Like, there's no multicolor threads on the outside. That's all just secret, hidden inside. And yeah, I made it only out of stuff that I had lying around in the basement, which I think is cool. Like, it's an achievement not to have to go out and buy anything to make, like, a project. Yeah. There you go. Like, I'm sewing the long strips that I made out of a bunch of short strips together into the front and the back of each leg that I'll then also be sewing together later on. Yeah, it's It's a lot of strips. um, mm, this took like a really long time to make. There you go. You can see the front and the back of each pan leg. And there you can see the seams. Yeah, there's one seam that holds each strip together. Then there's a zigzag seam to make sure that the fabric doesn't peel apart or do something weird. And then the third seam is to sew all the inside seams flat against the fabric. Because, like, the inside seams, naturally, they stick up. They stick up from the fabric, and that makes the fabric drape in a disadvantageous way. So, the third seam is there to make all the inside stuff flat and to make the fabric drape flatly, which looks better. But it also makes the pants more stable and washing machine proof. I put that into the washing machine after I finished sewing it, and yeah, it really holds. It does not fall apart at all. And yeah, now I'm sewing together the legs, which is cool, and also takes a long time. Oof. Ah. There you can see that. I don't know what to say at this point. It's just, yeah, it takes a really long time to sew this. But I got the crotch area right on the first try this time, which that was a problem with the last pair of pants I made. I got the crotch area completely wrong because I did not know how crotch areas of pants are sewn. And that's why I had to tear it up several times and redo it. The first pair. Like, I had to redo the first pair several times. And this pair, I got it right on the first try, which makes me very happy. Yeah, because I learned from the last one how to do it properly. There you go. It's not finished yet. I sewed the outside together with like these really rough hand stitch seams. That is the leftover fabric I had. I cut apart way too many jeans. Like, it was way more jeans than I needed. That's all the thread I used up. And that's the turnaround. Like, I show off the pants, like, how they look. Not exactly like in the drawing, but close enough. You know, it's still an achievement for me. And yeah, I have a bunch of leftover blue and white fabric, and I'm going to, in a later video, use those to make a whole third pair of pants. And something else, but I just lost track of what I was trying to say. Oh yeah, that with the yellow stitches. The ones that you saw in the photo earlier. Those were preliminary stitches. Like, I put those into the pants so I can try them on before sewing together everything and, like, finishing the project. Like, before sewing the last seams, I wanted to try on the pants to make sure they fit properly and they were sized correctly and everything, so that I wouldn't have to tear them up afterwards and like redo something because I didn't do it right the first time. And it paid off because those preliminary seams allowed me to try it on and then adjust stuff beforehand. And then I did get the fit of the pants right the very first time. Yeah.